Hi everyone. I think we can start now. So very happy to welcome you today. I'm Ani. I'm leading international projects at GenerationS Startup Corporate Accelerator, and I'm happy to introduce you today Sergey Makarov.
Hello.
Sergey is head of tech scouting at UralChem Innovation Center, and Rustam Kagirov. Rustam is head of innovation development at Lenta. So we will wait a little bit for the participants who are joining. And while we are waiting, I would like to remind you that you can use the chat window just to exchange with the other participants. And for the questions, if you have any questions for our speakers, you can use the Q&A section of the Zoom. It's also below your screen. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers. So the session is organized today within Innovators Connect and Conference. And GenerationS Corporate Accelerator is very happy to be the regional curator of the Unconference this year. And before we start, just a brief introduction of Generation Startup. So our speakers, we already introduced them. GenerationS Startup Corporate Accelerator is an innovation development platform and the largest corporate accelerator in Russian and Eastern European countries. Last year we became world top 5 government accelerators, according to the world benchmark study done by UBI Global. And we have actually more than 15,000 startups in our pipeline. We are trusted by around 60 corporate partners, and we have around 250 innovation ecosystem partners through all over the world. What are we doing? So actually, we are creating tailor-made corporate development programs, and we are working with international and Russian corporations. So, for example, we worked with Michelin, with Unilever. We did some tailor-made programs and projects for such companies as Airbus, as Alrosa, which is the leader in diamond mining, and also for Elim Group, which is the leader in pulp and paper. And actually, for our session today, as one of the topic of Innovators Connect and Conference was Foresight, Trends, and Startup Scouting, together with our speakers, we decided to cover the most challenging questions of this topic. So it's how to identify the tech trends and reveal right insights. What are the best ways to find relevant startups? And of course, after finding the startups, how to work with them. So what we're going to do with the startups. So Rustam, Sergey, let's start with the brief introduction from your side. Sergey, please introduce yourself, the company. What are you doing?
Yes. Thank you, Ani. Thank you, organizers, for this nice opportunity. I'm Sergey Makarov again, and I'm head of tech scouting at UralChem Innovation Center. UralChem is one of world-leading organizations involved in production of mineral fertilizers for agriculture. One of leading chemical producers, and in most recent times, like 2018, 2019, there was a decision by management to chase the innovation trajectory and to organize and to launch the Innovation Center. Actually, this is basically R&D center together with business development, Innovation Business Development Center. And it is structured as a daughter company, and it's located in Skolkovo Innovation Center, and we are a partner of Skolkovo Fund. And recently we decided to partner with a Russian venture company with GenerationS Accelerator. And our most idea, the basic idea behind the solution is that UralChem need to expand its activities wider than just production of mineral fertilizers, and to touch and to develop its activities in neighbor sectors like agri-food tech and biotech. It will allow us as a corporation to be presented at specific niches and in potentially interesting and potentially profitable sectors like food tech of next generation food tech and food tech 2.0 like that. So the UralChem Innovation is structured as an independent company, consisted of 3 laboratories: Agtech laboratory, chemical technology laboratory, digital laboratory, and 2 divisions: tech scouting and business development. Actually, it appears like a full funnel and full acceleration tube to find, to identify, to find, to assess, to prepare, to pack and launch newly funded startups, either for internal digestion, to incorporate it in existing production lines, or to launch it outside as an independent spin-off startups, together with partners, together with co-founders, together with other participants of ecosystem. That's it.
Great. Thank you for this introduction. It's very interesting, and we will be back to you to know a little bit more on how it's organized exactly in your company. So, Rustam, what about you? Can you do also a brief introduction of Lenta and your activities?
Thank you for the introduction and for the opportunity. My name is Rustam Kagirov, and I'm head of innovation development at Lenta. Lenta is the leading hypermarket operator in Russia and one of the leading food retailers in Russia. So we employ about 50,000 employees, and we are represented in 88 cities of Russia, having 380 stores. And so the Innovation Center is quite young at the Lenta, and everything started from the transformation. We have launched the complex transformation of the company that will touch the whole organization, the way we serve to our clients, and the way we work with our partners. And one of the key pillars of this transformation journey is working with innovations. So we work with innovations externally so that we attract the most promising startups from all over the world. We pilot them and we implement them in our processes. And we are working with innovations internally as well. We are nurturing internal entrepreneurship. So this is just a short description. I'm happy to answer the questions.
Okay, great. So now we know a little bit more about you and your companies, and let's start to discuss exactly the topics we identified. So the very first stage for the startup scouting is the right identification of what we are looking for. And there are several ways to do this. And Sergey, could you share with us your insights on what are the most reliable tools you use to identify or communicate the right trends and insights in UralChem.
Identifying trends. We are trying to behave like a startup ourselves, not to behave like investor, not to sit and wait. It's proactive behavior. We need to be curious. We need to be naive, if I can say even. We need to participate and expand our network, communication and information network. That is why we hear everybody, startups themselves, international organizations, universities, governments, investors who possess certain experience innovating and searching for promising activities. It could seem it's not such a structured activity, but indeed it is. We do have our own foresight instrumentation to integrate into informational clouds, informational community, you see, to identify what are next big things, what are next promising directions to act in. That is why, the simple answer is get out of house like a regular startup and go and search your big idea. Again, like you need to squeeze your own I should say jealousy, if I can say. You need to become a startup. You need to ask. You need to be curious. You need to look for poor quality or poor quantity. You see long queue in long line of people are waiting for something. You understand that is lack of quantity. We can cover this. We can create a business using this opportunity. Or you see sad people. You see unsatisfied people in production, in trading networks, in agriculture production. You see poor quality. Okay, this is the opportunity to cover this, to use this for launching another new business. That's it. Okay. So it's not a secret sauce. There's not a secret sauce. There's no one single instrument to understand. This is not Googling. There is not a single universal instrument to find out next big thing. Numerous. You need to be proactive. That's an answer.
Okay, great. Thank you. Rustam, what about you? How to predict future trends? How do you do this at Lenta?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I would respond to a question how to make an impact that can lead to the formation of a new trend. So what we do in Lenta, in my opinion, the new trend can born at the intersection point of the advanced technologies, in-depth expertise of business processes, and certain skills. And the combination of these three components can dramatically change the processes we operate in daily life for years, and even sometimes can lead to the formation of new markets that substitute the old ones. So the only question is how to make it happen. In Lenta, we are building partnerships with local and foreign universities to join forces to create technologies of the future, so that we would like to make an impact today of what will happen tomorrow. And we are very much focused on young talents who think outside the box and who could come to Lenta and change the processes we have now, and who finally could shape the Lenta for the following years.
Okay, that's very interesting. In fact, the ways you are identifying the future trends and the potential of new businesses. Probably, do you have any insights on how to evaluate exactly the potential of new businesses? How do you do this?
I have an answer.
Okay, great.
This is all about customer development again. My customer is Lenta. For example, my customer is Lenta. Lenta knows their customers, I mean the very end customers in the market. And I need to go to Lenta. I need to evaluate their level of interest. I need to develop them. Maybe I will provide another business model to them besides technical solution, besides technology. Let me give you an example. I'm talking to Lenta, business development managers or product development managers, and we're trying to evaluate some technical solution. I will not specify at the moment, but it's not a big secret. But in the course of our dialogue, we propose to them another business model. For example, let's try to organize vegetables selling like a subscription model. And they found it interesting and they found it promising, saying, look, that's a nice idea. Let's develop and redevelop it in several iterations. And now you see, we are like a business brokers and technology brokers between our customers and our solution makers. I mean, our scientists or our universities or R&D centers worldwide. So we take a technical solution, we pack it or repack it into some new or promising business model and reiterate it in some pivoting process, a regular pivoting. You see, like a startup, to feel it, how it works, to feel it, how this potential startup could be integrated into Lenta's business, you see? And that is how new business found, and new business is being initiated or felt in its very initial thoughts, ideation level. That's, again, proactive from two perspectives, from R&D perspective and from business development, the end user perspective. And that will give us a good idea, that will give us good understanding how it works, and that will give us a good feedback to realize it will work. That's it.
Okay. Rustam, would you like to add something?
In fact, what we observe now, and I think observe our colleagues from other companies, everything happens at the intersection point of different disciplines, different sectors, etc. So, as Sergey mentioned, that can be a synergy between the industrial, like heavy industrial company, and like a food retailer. So it depends on many new promising projects born at the intersection point of different industry sectors. I would just
yeah.
We just need to.
And Dani, if I can add, it brings us to open innovation model actually. When we do not we are not jealous about ourselves, each of ourselves. I mean, we realize every participant of this ecosystem possess its own competencies or toolbox, and we are not jealous to each other. We understand. We need to work together. We need to share competencies. We need to share expertise. We need to work together and share ideas and to develop the business together, iterating and reiterating it again and again and again until we find the sustainable business model and sustainable parameters to work to develop deeper and to develop in figures until we are ready to invest, until we are ready to structure it, to fix it, and to launch as a regular business. Until that, we work flexibly, we work agilely, if I can say. That's an idea. That's a truth in this sense.
Yes, sure. So you mentioned already about the open innovation model, and it's great actually. So the key to success is to share the insights, to find new partners, to not be afraid of partnering with different ecosystem players and to different companies as well as startups. So talking about we identified the right trends, we assume that they are right. We did a customer development. We tried to evaluate the potential of new businesses, and now it's the point to pass to more like technical issues on how to find relevant technologies which might solve our challenges, face our challenges. So my question is, as I understand, both UralChem and Lenta, you are actively working with in open innovation model and with startups, so with external technologies. So the question is, what are the tools, the most relevant tools you use to find these startups, these solutions that could help you? So we can start by Rustam and then pass the word to Sergey.
So, in fact, there are several ways that we can use to find relevant startups. The first one, we have built partnerships with external companies from local innovation infrastructure, so that our partner can aggregate and provide us a short list of relevant startups corresponding to our needs within just 3-4 days from our request. And that means we can respond shortly to our internal requests within a company. And the second way, of course, we use our own networking with startups. We have a chat of innovators from different companies. So if we are considering a specific startup, whether to pilot it or not, so within just a few minutes, we can identify the response from other companies to this specific startup and to make a decision whether to move forward or not. And of course, we use the networking of our colleagues from other companies. If we're talking about foreign startups, there are a number of international databases, and the subscription to these databases allows us to extract the most relevant startups corresponding to our needs. So I think these are three main ways that we use daily life to work with startups. And by the way, now we are preparing a launch of the global tech scouting for startups all over the world, and we are working on this now.
Okay, thank you, Rustam. Sergey,
same question. Yeah, I see. Well, you see, it very much depends on our customer. If our customer is if the mother corporation, I mean the UralChem joint company itself, and the request is plug and play technology, for example, some technology of production of very specified fertilizer with the specific properties, with a specific technology or production parameters, we need to find rather mature technology at a technology readiness level like 7+ or 6+, like that. We search for startups at rather later stages, like A-round funded startups. We use one set of instruments like venture funds, portfolios, in some cases tech accelerators portfolios, in some cases our investors, later stage investors database, who are eager to promote their portfolio companies, who are eager to co-fund in further development of them, or in exit if we are ready to buy this technology or buy this company. Another scenario is a request to find some technical solution which is not necessary, matured enough, which is not mandatory in the market yet, which is actually equal to technology readiness level like 3 to 4, in some cases up to 5. It means we need a search for not even startups, in some cases even R&D groups, R&D labs, or some teams, or maybe future startups who are eager to launch a startup, to create a business in some form, in a form of technology transfer, if they are not ready or they do not want to launch their own business, but they are ready to transfer their IP rights. In this case, we are trying to find a R&D lab. We are searching through publications. We are searching through patent databases. We are searching through our universities and accelerators partnership network. So there are two scenarios depending on maturity of technology. That's it.
Okay. Yes, and it's also actually very interesting to compare the tools mentioned by Rustam and the tools mentioned by Sergey, as the areas of your activities are quite different. So Rustam is representing retail tech, Sergey is representing more deep tech technologies, Agtech, farm tech. But I mentioned that both you are telling that it's very important to have a good network of the partners who are providing you such technologies, such startups you can implement further and work with. So as I understand correctly, you are both working with innovation ecosystem partners, but what about to join forces with other big corporations? So do you have any cases you work with your probably competitors or the corporations in related industries in order to find relevant technologies and to test them? Sergey, we can start by you.
It's not complex, but it's a tricky question.
Yes.
Because UralChem, it's a competitor. It's a competitor for numerous other participants of this specified market. Nevertheless, we do. We try to cooperate with them. It's a mental question. It's a question of innovation culture to cooperate at early stages. All corporations should understand that there is no matter for competition at these very early stages. You see, we are not competitor to PepsiCo, to Yara, to EFCO at early stages of next generation of protein sources. Everybody's of those mentioned companies, including UralChem, are looking for next generation alternative protein sources. And it's well known, it's not a secret that Yara is looking for this, that PepsiCo is looking for this, that UralChem is looking for these next gen alternative protein sources. And EFCO as well. We are partnering with EFCO. Well, how to say we are partnering? We did not sign any protocol or memorandum or agreement. We're exchanging information. We're sharing our findings. We discussing our reports or some ideas, and it's too early to be competitors. It's too early to compete. We are good. We become good competitors at later stages when we will finance those startups or finance those production activities while entering market. At these rather early stages, we share competencies, we share information, and it's and it makes us stronger, both all of us. I mean, so there is for example, there are some R&D centers whom we cooperate with from different sites. I mean, for example, Fosagro, which are our direct competitor in fertilizers production. Fosagro works with some R&D center, and we work together with this, and we work with this R&D center, but for different directions, and we are actually partnering with Fosagro in this sense. Why not? It's a good sense, it's a good example, and there could be numerous, huge number of new findings, new ideas, new startups, new M&As. That's great. Need to understand from the very beginning. The example is we want to produce cheese. Cheese is produced from milk. To produce cheese, you do not need just milk. You need milk, and you need bacteria, and you need fermenters, and you need production lines, and you need logistics, and you need whatever, shelves, and so and so and so. But to produce milk, you need cow. To feed cow, you need a field. You need grass to feed your cow. And now you do not have a field with grass, but you do have a forest. You need to cut this forest and take off these old trees, and then to level this ground and to seed this grass. What's this sense of competing while seeding the grass in this field? Nothing. No matter of this competition. You will compete while producing your cheese. That's good, but it will be after 5 or 6 years after this. Now let's do it together. Let's join our efforts. That's an example. You see.
Thank you for the perfect answer to a tricky question, Rustam. The same question is for you. What about Lenta, retail tech? Do you join forces with other competitors?
Yeah, of course, we join forces with other companies of different sectors. But in fact, Lenta is in a holding called Sever Group that owns shares of different companies from different industry sectors. And we closely collaborate with companies of this group. The aim is to share resources, including scouting, and to bring additional expertise to the projects that are realized in a group of companies. If we're talking about other corporations, of course, there is a synergy of combining resources from different companies. So we are aiming to build partnerships, close partnerships with retail companies, not with direct competitors, also to share expenses and to create like a center of expertise for the projects that we are scouting and for the projects that we are further implementing in our processes.
Okay, perfect. So the simple question is, yes, you are working with other big companies as well. And the key point is to have synergies rather than to compete with each other or to hide some technologies. Okay, great. And the last question I would like to discuss in terms of scouting startups is the question of it's the question of geography. So in terms of, if we speak about some geographical borders or priorities for your companies, are you working only with the local startups, or are you interested to look for relevant technologies worldwide? How do you work with the international startups? So let's start with Rustam for this question.
Yeah, as I mentioned, our innovation center is quite young, less than 1 year, but our innovation team members are coming from different industry sectors with relevant expertise in innovations, having specific portfolio of realized startups. And I would say that our team understands the local startups landscape, and that makes us go global to identify disruptive startups all over the world. And as I have mentioned, now we are preparing a global tech scouting project. I would say that we are already actively working with foreign startups. We have just finished piloting a startup from Singapore in digital marketing, and the pilot was successful, and we are transferring this startup to the next stage. We will implement it to our business process. And we are preparing a pilot with a startup from the United States and a startup from Israel. So we are aware of startups, of foreign startups, and we are working with them. And as well, we are working, we started to collaborate with foreign universities. We understand that for some of our requests, there are no startups. The technology should be created in some amount of time, and we start to collaborate with the R&D groups who potentially can create a new technology like in 1 year, so that we can make an impact today to have this technology tomorrow.
Thank you, Rustam. Sergey, what about you?
Almost the same, including the age of Innovation Center. 1 year is the age of UralChem Innovation, and it's the last thing, the last parameter I would notice is the location of the specified or the found startups. When I'm searching for a specific technology or specific solution or a specific ready-to-use business. No boundaries, you see, no boundaries. As well, we are now in negotiations with Canadian company and Canadian university, with Israel company, with Turkish company and Turkish Accelerator. Some of them are in Russia, but no, it just maybe easier to communicate. I mean, the language is issue, but no, nothing. You see, there's an opposite. That's even opposite issue, a matter that while searching for mature technology in a form of matured startup, experienced startup, mastering and expanding expanding geographically, that this kind of startup may be potentially much more interesting at foreign startup. I mean, not Russian startup, because they are much more experienced and prepared by those accelerators and international and multinational VC funds, and they become experienced entering foreign markets and going global. In case of searching for a specified technology at early stages, like completed R&D with no startup moves, no matter at all. Yeah.
Okay, great. And you already started to talk about the further cooperation with startups. Particularly, Rustam mentioned some cases you are piloting startups within Lenta Group. So could you just tell us a little bit in details what are exactly the components for facilitating startups, POCs, pilots in Lenta?
In general, there should be two main components. The first one is the fast track, and the second one is the budget. So there should be a fast track that allows you to avoid too many bureaucratic issues when you make a decision to make a pilot. So the less signatures you need to take, it's better. And the second one is the budget. The separate budget allows you to be flexible while working with startups, so you don't need to approve at the top level the finance for each of the pilots you want to organize. So these are two main things, but I would emphasize on the more systematic thing. There should be created like a culture of innovations, or we call it innovation culture in the company. So all employees should be aware of what's happening in the company and what's the role of innovation central inside the company. How can it simplify the routine processes in daily life of the employees? In this case, we are creating so-called center of expertise to bring opinion, experience, and best practices of technology leaders all over the world. So the aim is our employees getting access to a global technological excellence, and they are aware of what's happening locally and globally. And that simplifies identifying and piloting innovations.
Thank you, Rustam. Sergey, the question for you is a little bit different. So could you share with us maybe some metrics you use to demonstrate the success of the pilots, or in fact the results of the pilot projects you have?
You see, it's a simple and maybe not simple together. We are brokers. I mean, we act as internal brokers between our final customers and the startups or research teams. In case our customer is a final company or final user, like let's exemplify with Lenta. Lenta says, look, we need cubic tomatoes cherry with purple and yellow colors. That's a customer need. That's a customer want. And in case we just find it in the market, those who are ready to provide this sort of tomatoes and to provide this production, and we can assess the financial part, and we should assess the mental readiness to work within new environment for those startup participants. I mean, today they are startups founders. Tomorrow they will be either free people just getting their cash, or they become a ordinary staff in a newly created company, even daughter company. That's the scenario we testify them. We test them. I mean, we trying to understand, will it work? Will it work in Lenta? Will it work for them in Lenta? Or will it work for them in UralChem/Lenta joint venture? That's it. Another example, when we are looking for a technical solution to launch a startup, to create a startup, to develop a new venture based on R&D solution. Well, we are looking for R&D solution, and then we are our important task, the very utmost task, is to test the scaling up, is to understand risks of scale up. For this case, we use our own labs, Agtech lab, chemical lab, digital lab, and our business development division, to put them into our labs, to scale them up, and to test in real life conditions, either at our UralChem production, if it relates to fertilizer production, or in our partner or customer production facilities, Lenta or somebody else. I mean, again, saying Lenta, I mean a Lenta, you see, not the specified Rustam Lenta, yeah? But it's just an example. See, yeah, for me, it's easier. Again, I do have a very simple example with the Lenta. Again, it depends. Either they passed through scale-up risk management, or they did not pass it. If they did, we negotiate with final customer and we measure the metrics of success using the wants and needs of our final customer. In case they are too young, they are too small, we test them at our own labs, at our own facilities technically, and then we test them, transferring them and organizing testing at our own bigger production facilities, industrial production facilities, or at our customer facilities. I mean, fields, networks, I mean, retail networks, etc. That's our scenario. That's our instrumentation.
Thank you. Thank you for these insights. And before we pass to my last question, I would like to share with our participants some key insights we already mentioned. So just to summarize what we've talked about. So actually, I hope you see my screen. We discussed the efficient scouting models, and our participants and speakers, you mentioned very well that it's necessary before to launch any scouting campaign, it's necessary to understand what we're looking for. For just basically for the participants, we prepared some keynotes and a brief checklist how to determine the efficient scouting program. So having the understanding of the market, the landscape, identifying if we are interested in international projects or just local companies. Also, it's important to understand, should we develop the company's innovative brand or we don't have such a task? And the final question is to understand our resources. So basically with how many projects we can work at this moment. And as you mentioned, we just provided here the main scouting channels you might use. So it's leading universities, it's technology parks, different incubators, accelerators, investment funds, partners databases, targeted manual search, and also some automated scouting technologies here. So the last question we would like to discuss if like everything is successful, if you did a pilot project with a startup which is also successful, what might be the next cooperation stage? And in general, also, what do you think? What is the future trend for a startup and corporate cooperation? So not like for the specific startup, but in general, what might be the future trends? Rustam, can we start by you?
Answering the question, what happens next after the startup pilot is finished? Yeah. So we are aiming to pilot those startups that can lead to a rollout that can make an impact to our business process. So that we are focusing very much to the process, how we organize this pilot. So this is very important, which metrics we put to identify whether the startup is successful, and there should be the same expectations from both sides, from the startup and from the corporate of the successful startup. So in our case, if the startup is successful, we are considering the question of implementing this solution to one of our business processes. And if we're talking about future trends, as I have mentioned, in a number of cases, we cannot find a turnkey solution to our needs locally and sometimes even globally within startups community. There are some big technological players who could offer some of the solutions, but usually they are either too expensive or unfortunately they do not constitute state-of-the-art technologies. And in my opinion, potentially there can be a third partner. Sergey mentioned about technology brokers. So the third partner can be between the startup and the corporate, who could identify and combine different pieces of technologies across countries from different startups and R&D labs, who could combine this all, taking into account our IT architecture and limitations, and provide us a final solution. So, and finally can make innovation happen.
Yes, sure. Sergey, what about UralChem? So what is the next stage after the successful pilots for the startup?
Successful pilot, after successful pilot is implementation. The ordinary, I should say, regular project management. I mean, the calendar plan, work plan, financial model, investment scenario, and portfolio management, and the project management itself. There appears a project manager or project manager team, and the strict metrics and strict calendar planning, and it becomes a very, very hierarchic structure of managing and accessing that metrics. You see, and speaking about next level of next paradigm of corporate to startup interaction, I can imagine that corporates will become more and more wide in their ideation and goal setting, and the corporation will become not just a narrow focused on some narrow set of products production or industrial production or some specified in the past. Universities will become a part of corporates. Retail networks become a part of corporates. In this sense, there will be no boundaries between startup and corporation, because the field of growing startups will be corporation itself. You see, it's similar to New Moscow. Okay, we are in international. We are in the international community now. It's like a macro. It's a megapolis. You know, megapolis. It's not just the tall buildings. You know, megapolis or megapolises could appear like together, outskirts and the city itself. Yeah, it's a megapole. The same is here. The corporation or the entire ecosystem player will unify all of them: universities, entrepreneurs, investors, producers, logistics, selling networks, traders, whoever. So it will act in a very coordinated way. In this sense, that's the future thing. I believe. So there will be no distinction between here is startup, here is boundary, and then behind the boundary is a corporate. And then after some another boundary is a field, agri-tech. And there's another boundary and there are investors. And then another boundary, there are ecosystem player or government or something like that. No. There will be soft boundaries. There will be tender boundaries, penetratable boundaries like that.
I'm agree with you, actually, absolutely. So we are running a little bit out of time. So basically, we don't have much time for questions. That's why I'm sharing with the participants our contact details. So you can reach out to us if you need, or if you have some questions, feel free. We will answer them. And finally, thank you for Rustam. Thank you, Sergey, for joining us today. I hope it was very insightful and interesting for the participants. Personally, I really enjoyed our conversation today, and thank you for joining us and sharing your insights and experience.
Thank you very much, Annie. Thank you, Rustam. Thank you, all visitors and organizers. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day. So, see you later. Bye.
Sure. Bye-bye.
Bye.